Hi, I'm the guy that made this screwdriver video and then proceeded to post it to Reddit. I didn't do this just for fun though. This whole project was to level up my Blender knowledge and make something cool for my demo reel, because recently I felt like I've been creatively stagnant and not really making cool things. Now, before I get into the breakdown, there are a couple of things I need to clear up. First, I'm a motion designer by trade, predominantly 2D motion design. I've been doing some stuff in 3D for my work, but never really any complex modeling or full-length videos with cool angles or interesting shots. So while this is my first personal project in Blender, I have used Blender in my previous role. Now there's a big asterisk here. I'll go in on that at the end of this video. Spoiler, I got let go. Anyway, I've never properly modeled before. I have reused free pre-made assets and modified them a little, like this 3D bottle render I did, where I changed the label and the material color. As for modeling, I did model everything in this video by myself except for this Game Boy. Lastly, I did all the sound design, but I did source every sound from online resources. I'll touch on that later in the video, but again, I didn't make any of the audio, I just used Pixabay for most of it. Alright, so let's get into the breakdown. Before I start making anything or even animating, I need to come up with an idea. Now, usually I look up motion inspiration online and try to find something cool and then storyboard it. But in this case, I actually had the idea come to me while I was doing some research at work for a separate thing, like completely different. And then I went into a rabbit hole of product animation. I also remember the whole LTT YouTube being hacked video from a few years ago. And so I wanted to come up with a video that was me hacking their server and then finding these two secret videos that they never put out. One of them being an unused product animation and the other video being a new product that they're working on. Now this whole idea was developed way back in November, and a few weeks later they released the transparent screwdriver, which was actually going to be the product I was working on. I saw a Reddit post where someone was like, oh god, I wish they made the atomic purple Game Boy clear case shell for their screwdriver. So that kind of killed a bit of momentum for me, but I sat with it and decided the first thing I need to do was actually model the screwdriver. So needing to model the LTT screwdriver, I actually went onto the web store, lttstore.com, because I don't actually own one. I grabbed a bunch of images as reference to the front, the back, and some of the inside shots and started modeling. Now again, this was way back in November, and trust me when I say this, I had so many issues where I had to restart the modeling process because I decided in my infinite wisdom not to look up a screwdriver tutorial and just sort of wing it, which honestly was the best thing I could have done because I learned so much through repetition. Like I would start working on something and then make a mistake, and at that point I'd gone too far forward, so I just deleted the whole thing. And there was a lot of making duplicates and cloning like things that I'd made on screen. But the biggest thing that I learned was this: you can have round cylinders with a shape that has flat edges. So here's a real-time video of me remaking the hardest part of a screw bit. And this literally took me 3 days to figure out because I had no idea what I was doing. But I accidentally stumbled on a tutorial, and it was of someone modeling a car, but like early on they did this technique with bevels, and it kind of blew my mind. And once I'd cooked, I went to my computer and had to play around with it and realized this is what I should have been doing. Anyway, once I got that done, the rest of the screwdriver was pretty simple. Materials were pretty easy. I got a couple of materials free from BlenderKit. If you don't know what BlenderKit is, it's a free add-on for Blender where you can search for materials, search for models, search for HDRIs. They're all in there. You'll see stuff that's paid, but you can also just select stuff that's free, which is really useful, especially if you're new like me. Making the rubber material though and the plastic material, I did do those myself because they were super easy. I just spent a little time playing around with values in the material editor and got them made. One big thing I did learn from making my own materials was that you can assign multiple materials to the same model or the same mesh even. So if you have an object with multiple materials like the screwdriver does, it has a rubber grip and it has plastic, what you can do is you can select the mesh and select certain faces to have a particular material by assigning them. And it's super simple, and it actually really saves you a lot of time because then you don't have to separate each element of the screwdriver. It can all be one long model that has different materials assigned. Really, really convenient and really cool. And so here's the final product. If you would like this 3D model, I've actually uploaded it to my Gumroad, and the link is in the description. It is pay for how much ever you want, but the bare minimum is $1. So if you're more than happy to pay for $1, go do it. The file itself is a Blender file. If you would like a GLB for Cinema 4D or whatever other 3D software you're using, just let me know, and what I'll do is I'll upload it to that file so you can get all of them basically and use the one you want to use. It does include the screwdriver as well as the screw bits and a single screw, which you can replace with your own if you'd like. So let's get into it. Let's do a shot by shot breakdown, and let me talk to you through the thought process, the visuals, the audio, and the issues I had with each shot. I've not really written this part out, so wish me luck on making it make sense for you. So this is the first shot that I worked on, and I really love what Bungie have been doing with Marathon. I think the design language is super strong. And so I wanted to do something similar where I bring in and incorporate as many of these like micro graphics or little elements throughout each shot. And so the first shot, we have these chevrons, we have this outline box effect that I've done, which is essentially, if I single out one of these shots, it's 3 frames of animation and then it freezes. And the reason why I did a freeze frame is so that you get this nice gradient in the background. It would have been really distracting if it all continued to animate. Also, there's a cool little bunch of references here. So I've got this removing the segue, buffering the tech tips, increasing the value of Charad's 14 karat gold AMD grill, which actually has gone up in value. So his mouth is now worth more money than it was like a year ago, which I think is pretty funny. And yeah, so that's the first shot. So this is the second shot. This is a much longer shot, which I've actually had to break down into 2 parts. So you can see here that they're like cut up. The thought process was I wanted this to animate in and then show off the screw bits as they popped in and click into place. So this was actually really easy to make, and I'll show you the Blender file as well after I've gone through this. But basically, yeah, I animated these popping in with a lot of these UI elements again that are coming through. So the chevron, there's this box here, and then also there's some cool little text reveals. Again, because this was meant to be like a hack, I wanted this little terminal compromised text, and if you put that into the end of a YouTube link, you'll get a nice little rewarded with a nice little meme. I also wanted to match some of the sound design with the edit, so these are actually 3 different shots from 3 slightly different angles. But yeah, and then I got this cool little shot where I've animated the bits extending, because I feel like that doesn't get shown enough or talked about enough, that you can actually put longer bits into that. The bits themselves, I didn't know how, well, I did know, I just didn't want to animate these bits, these holders, opening and closing for the bits as they slot in. So you can see here I've got some clipping, and that's because I was lazy. Let's just be real. I was lazy with it going in. So they sort of clip through. You can see it there. It's like clipping through it. And that's the reason why I have these 3 shots at different angles, is because I wanted the interaction with this happening from behind so that it was obscured. You can still sort of see it if you pay enough attention, but because it happens so quickly, you genuinely don't see it. So yeah, that's why it's all happening in the back. And I think I've used a different camera for this. So let me just zoom out. Yeah, this is the right camera that I did. So you can see that it's all just like clipping in from behind. So the other shot that I wanted to do was this cool angle. I knew that I wanted to do like a POV shot, right? So the way I've set this up is that there's a camera, there's the camera, and it's parented to the handle. And the handle is parented to this null, which the entire thing is parented to the null. And so that when it screws, you can see here, it ratchets to give the ratcheting effect that it would in real life. The cool thing about this shot is that I was able to bring in this Game Boy, which I've not modeled. This is the only thing I've not modeled, but I was able to put on these stickers that I got from the LTT store. I just basically copied and pasted the image and then made these little bespoke stickers that fit on it. I also tried to keep the colors of orange and lilac consistent throughout this whole animation, so you can see every scene the gradient animation in the background is working its thing, but the colors are consistent throughout every shot. And so I wanted to bring that into this shot because I knew it would be on a desk, and that's the reason why these two weird grooves are here, just so you're able to tell that it's a desk. But the way I did this was in the shading editor. Basically, this tabletop is like a lilac color, and the actual area light is a noise texture, so I can mess with these values and sort of fine tune it however I want, which ended up having a really nice effect in the angle that I was doing. So for this last shot, what I wanted to do was really focus on sound design. I wanted to cut to this shot to make everything a little bit jarring and sort of change the flow of the animation. So what I did to do that was animate the channels, the audio channels from the left to the right. So if I just play this real quick. So I've actually modified the channels. So if you look on the effect control here on the left, you can see that the left channel is at 100% and the right level is at 50%. But then on the next one it flips, so you got 50 and 100, 50 left, 100 right, and that just gives this little back and forth effect, which I've timed with the rest of the animation, so each element has its own little jingle. And then I also animated this glow in the dark effect in Blender and basically just changed the output to bloom to make it glow really orange, which was cool. I also did I created like a little fog box around the actual screwdriver so it would glow a little bit more intensely. You'll also notice a date that's been obscured by the glitch. If you can figure out that date, you'll be rewarded with another Easter egg, so good luck. And then this last shot was again very inspired by Marathon, so all this UI element was, and these micrographics were inspired by Marathon, and I really wanted to just continue those elements that I'd used previously and flow it into this last shot. And there's Linus. Early on I mentioned that this was going to be a hacking video, but when I animated this, which by the way took me a really long time to manually type out and come up with, it ruined the flow of the rest of the animation, so I had to cut it, which is a shame because there was a lot of fun jokes in there that I had and little references to past videos, but also it took a really long time to do, so I felt like I'd wasted tons of hours manually figuring out MS-DOS and how it worked and typing it all out. So yeah, again, a bit of a shame, but I'm glad I did. It left the flow of the video looking really nice. So the last couple of things that I wanted to cover before I end this video are, first, I got let go from my job about 5 days after posting this. Not because of this, but because the company I work for lost 5 big clients and they couldn't really sell motion design to their current clients. So I ended up having to get let go basically. I was like pulled into a meeting at 3 p.m. ish and they were like, you have 2 hours to grab as much work as you can off of your MacBook and then that's it. You've gone. So that was a bit of a shock. And if you are in the creative field or if you know anyone looking for a freelance motion designer or motion designers, please let me know. Just reach out. Or you can forward them my demo reel, which I've linked in the description below. The other thing is I've actually submitted this video for Motion Awards. Now, I know this probably won't win because there's a lot of cool stuff on there and there's a lot of incredible motion design work being put out, but it would be cool if you could vote on it. So there is a link in the description. You can do that if you want to, no pressure. That would just be super nice of you. Lastly, I want to thank you guys, the community, like everyone on the subreddit that reacted, the LTT mods, the staff who also reacted and reached out. I genuinely appreciate you all. Like I really wasn't expecting such a crazy reaction to my work, let alone over 100,000 views on Reddit. It like really got me giddy seeing it being reacted live on the One Show. I had no expectations of that, by the way. Like I did not realize it was going to happen or it would happen, which is like mental to see. I do plan on working on another Linus video, but right now I'm not really sure what I want to make or want to do. I've seen a couple of cool things I could make, but I'm not sure how to bring them to life just yet. But if you'd like to see me make something with another one of their products, let me know and I'll give it a go. I'll figure something out. But yeah, again, thank you guys so much. I'm sure other creatives couldn't agree on this, but there's a lot of self-doubt when you're working on something, especially when you've put a lot of time and effort into it, and to have it well received the way it was received by you guys, and it being like the most view thing I've ever worked on by myself, it's really motivated me to keep pushing forward and making cool stuff. And yeah, I'm genuinely grateful for you all. So thank you for clicking on this video. Thank you if you made it this far. Drop a like. You don't have to. Drop a subscribe. You don't have to, but I appreciate it. And I'll continue to make cool stuff. I don't know how to end a video.